What's up, everybody? It's your boy Justin Rodriguez, your favorite lender here at Neighborhood Loans, and we're super excited to announce our next guest. But before we start, you already know I got my cafecito on deck, and we're super excited. So I'm proud to announce Blanca, the money doctor, and we're super excited to introduce you. And Blanca, we all want to know your background, your story. So give us a little insight on everything in your journey to where you're at today.
Awesome. Well, thank you for having me, Justin. And I'm excited to share a lot of great nuggets. So I started learning about money growing up. It started with my family.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes there's certain people in the family that are very good with budgeting and stuff, and sometimes there's not. So I had a little bit of both. But my grandmother was a big influence in my life, and just watching her and her giving me tips on how to save. That's when my journey actually started. My first job.
Yeah.
She would tell me, if you save this amount of money, I'll match you and give you this amount. I'm like,
Oh, okay.
oh,
You're like, oh,
okay,
let's
it's a
start to
nice
save.
incentive. Yes. So that's what started it all. And then just watching and learning from people, seeing some people had money, some people didn't. And then it was just paying attention. And then working at the bank. I
Oh,
worked in
okay.
banking my whole life.
Okay. So that's what got you there. And what I find it interesting, though, is sometimes you have either your family that's going to help guide you, like your grandma, that's going to outmatch you and do things that actually helps you, get the best traits in order to learn how to save and things like that. But then it's interesting where you get some family members that don't necessarily help or give the guidance, or it's either lack of knowledge or, they just don't share the knowledge that they do currently have, or they look like they got the money, and in reality, you look at the bank account or whatever, situate their credit and everything, they don't actually have the money. And you're in that realm. So how would you say from your experience and your viewpoint, when you look at someone's situation, how do you judge on what the best path for them might be?
Yeah, well, we don't know what, their upbringing was. We don't know if there was somebody there guiding them or not. And it also the environment, the people that we surround ourselves with. We don't have a choice in the beginning,
Yeah.
but then we do in the future. But what I've seen is just people that are there's three types of people. People that are like, no matter what you say, they're not gonna want to talk about money, and they
Mm-hmm.
just want to live now, live today. Life is short. And then there's other people that are looking, researching, trying to self-educate. And then there's the third that they just don't know what they don't know.
Yeah.
They're just going with the flow, and so that's what I noticed, and that's how I could easily talk to people based on that.
On that, so based off what your experience overall, you grew to where you're at today. So how do you think your life experiences and challenges has grown you into obviously the financial position that you're in?
So working at the bank, I was surrounded by money early on since I was in high school as a teller, then a customer service rep, and then at the age of 22, I ended up at the Federal Reserve Bank of Chicago,
Oh, wow.
and I was there 20 years.
Yeah.
So I seen a little bit of everything, and then just learning from family, learning from friends, and then putting myself out there with community outreach. I'm a volunteer at heart. Whenever there's a need, I always raise my hand. I want to
Yeah.
be there. And so learning from other people as well has helped me along my journey. But I've made tons of mistakes,
Yeah.
tons. I was in debt early, in college. When, you start working, your social security is out there, and, people start, like, banks and, companies start sending you circulation,
Credit
yes,
cards and
offers, or you
mm-hmm.
go into a store and they offer you a discount if you open up a credit card. I had all the credit cards because I wanted discount everywhere,
Yeah.
and it got me in trouble.
Yeah.
So sometimes, just life just, happens to you, and no matter what you do, you just don't know. Like, I was that type of person. I didn't know what I didn't know. That
Yeah.
was me.
Yeah. And what I love about it though is I want you to dig deeper into that, because I know there's a lot of people out there who go through the same exact thing. And I'll share my story, right? I was in college and I was doing my business and everything was going. And once I started closing deals, I don't know where that money went. I really don't know where that money went. We were just talking about before this. We were talking about, going out, going bars, get drinks, spend money. And, all the money, I was in college. I didn't have no obligation to pay any rent. I didn't pay anything. But the money that I was making, I truly, to this day, don't know where it went. Right. So I want you to dig deeper on your situation, because I think it's really good for people to hear, you go through those struggles, those trials and tribulations. And now all of a sudden you have the knowledge, and you're not only just talking about it, you're spreading it to the world, and I
Yeah.
love that. I absolutely love that. So give it a little deeper in your situation.
Okay, so learning from my grandmother, she was very frugal. She never bought anything for herself. She wanted to make sure everybody was taken care of and the
Yeah.
things that she wanted. But she had a goal. Her goal was to build a house. to come to the US.
Mm.
And her mom, my great grandmother, actually told her, just go make some money, build yourself a house. And that was her goal. And she was so grateful for that guidance. Oh, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
And so she did. She would send money to Mexico. She wanted to go back to Mexico. She would
Yeah.
send money for years and years, and she got her home, her home built. But she only knew so much. She
Mm-hmm.
only knew how to save because she didn't have a mentor or anybody guiding her. No, the big, institutions were not knocking on her door,
Right.
asking her if she wanted to invest. So she just saved at the bank and she made herself a decent living. But what I notice is that when people have guidance and they have other options to save money, they have more.
Mm-hmm.
And so I noticed her working so hard, saving so much, but she was barely making it. She
Yeah.
wasn't doing a lot of things for herself. She was just saving a lot to make that goal happen. And then I saw my parents and I saw the struggles there. And, one is better than the other when it comes to money. And, my mom was always an avid entrepreneur. Like she was a stay at home mom
Yeah.
because she was making money, carpooling, babysitting,
Yeah.
doing hair,
Yeah.
making piñatas, baking cakes.
Oh,
Like she
dude.
was like, that was my first glimpse of an entrepreneur. In
Mm-hmm.
her, I didn't even know that
Yeah.
I was learning from her. And my dad was the volunteer. He loved, helping people. He gave a lot of money away that people didn't pay him back. And he was just not very good with money.
Mm-hmm.
So I saw that. But we're learning from our environments. We're learning from everybody. And then one day you're going to take it all and create your own. And then the people we surround ourselves with. I wasn't really around people that were saving. Everybody was in debt. Everybody was using
Right.
credit cards. So then when I had my son,
Oh, that was life changing.
oh my gosh, he was 16 years old when I started learning about finances. What I'm doing now, he was 16. And I said, what if I would have known then what I know now, I would be so in a different position right now. And I would tell him that. But sometimes our kids get parent death. We don't
Yeah.
know nothing. Parents don't know nothing,
Yeah.
right? And so I said, go to a workshop, the same one I saw that I do now. Go to this workshop and learn the fundamentals because we're not learning any of these things in school. In the last
100%.
100 years, we've had the same classes: math, science, social studies, English, geography. Like, really? We have Google now. Like, why haven't the
Right.
classes changed?
Yeah.
100 years, we need classes on money, mental health. We need those type of classes in our school system. And so people are struggling coming out of school. So he was 16.
Yeah.
He's like, okay. I said, you want to be a young millionaire? Yes. Okay, go to this workshop. And he went to the workshop. It wasn't me giving it was someone else, right? So he's
Yeah.
like, hey, if I start saving right now, I could be a millionaire. I'm like, yeah, that's what I'm trying to tell you, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's why it's important to put our children in front of other people, because that way, we're going to be just nagging them, but hearing it from someone else is so much
She's
different.
like, Mom, you don't know what you're talking about, dude. Like, I don't need to listen to you.
Exactly.
Well,
Exactly.
dive deeper into the financial workshop. So, what did it teach you that allowed you and your son, obviously, to see another vision?
Yeah, the fundamentals that are not being taught are compound interest, the
Yeah.
power of compound interest. I mean, this is like, they call it the eighth wonder of the world.
Yeah.
This is, everyone should know this, how powerful this is. And
Mhm.
it's a math, it's math. So we could have learned about that in grade school, the
Mhm.
power of compound interest, and also budgeting. I was part of this program called Junior Achievement. It's a
Mhm.
non-for-profit that's all over the nation. And I was volunteering with them for 15 years. And they teach those things. They
Yeah.
teach about money, banking, business, budgeting. And so I love that program. It was always near and dear to my heart. But then now that when I started doing what I'm doing now, I'm like, no wonder Junior Achievement exists, because it's not in the classroom.
Yeah.
So they teach you how to start a business, and it's at the grade level. So it's from kindergarten through senior year in high school.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So if a first grader, they know what a need, teach them what a need and a want is. A want are toys, video games.
Yeah.
A need is clothing, food, and shelter. So now
Mhm.
they know why their parents go to work, budgeting, paying the bills. And as they're growing up, they're learning all these things. And then banking, getting into a career and paying your bills. Are you going to take the bus or are you going to buy a car? And all these
Right.
things. And so that's what these workshops touch on, the basic fundamentals. So when I started doing this, when I went to my first workshop, I thought about Junior Achievement. I'm like, wow, this is like next level.
Yeah.
After high school, once people actually have the money coming into their hands, we're
What do
still
you do with it?
learning. There's so much more to learn,
Yeah.
investing, buying a home. There's so many college planning,
Yeah. Yeah.
so many things still to learn.
And there's such a lot, and I think the sad part about it is like you said, no one really truly teaches it, even to this day. Like I went just not even a couple months ago, I started the business aspect, doing everything and treating my business actually like a business, and high yield savings account. It's like there's things that you could just throw money into and they'll get you a lot more money than just keep into account. You don't have to do nothing,
Yeah.
So the one thing that I was preaching to people, and one of my cousins, when I first, I had a savings account, I think I was getting 2% interest. And what, for all the people that don't understand or know what that means, it means that if you keep your money in one account, the bank will pay you a certain percentage of interest if you keep the money in their bank account, right? And so in this point in time, I kept the money in one bank account, but I was earning like nothing. I was like pennies. And I was like, okay. And then I switched over. And now, you're getting $75 just because you keep it in a bank account,
Exactly.
and it's crazy how much money that you can get. And exactly what you said, compound interest, if you do the right things and if you keep investing right now, when you're 30, 40, 50 years old, that money can, 10x because it's just
Yes.
by the nature of the market. But, I want to see how was your transition from working in the Federal Reserve and getting into your career path that you're doing right now? Is this your forever job or?
This is it.
There you
I
go.
planted my flag.
There you go. There you go. So how was the transition?
So when I first started working at the bank, that's where I planted my flag. I'm
Yeah.
like, oh my goodness, I'm in.
Yeah.
It's not that easy to get into the Federal Reserve. So I was so excited. And I had just, I was pregnant. I just had my son. I'm like, okay, this is
Yeah.
secure job. But during those years, I did see a lot of people get laid off. I did see job elimination. But I'm so grateful that somebody invited me to this workshop. I'm so grateful that I was able to learn about how my 401k plan worked. I had no idea what I
Yeah.
was doing. I had a 401k, I was saving, I knew about a match, and I was going up to the match. So some people get lucky,
Yeah.
Other people don't understand it and don't even start it. So when I went to the workshop, they talked about understanding how your money is being invested in a 401k plan. So the first thing that I did was I printed my statement, I brought it. I'm like, I need an appointment.
Yeah. I need to know what's going on.
What am I doing with my 401k? And I saw the need. What's an emergency fund? How much should we
Yeah.
have in emergency fund? So I was disturbed from the workshop because I didn't know a lot of things,
Yeah.
but I was intrigued. And so I was that, tell me more. I need to meet again. I need some coaching sessions.
Yeah.
And that's what really opened my eyes to a new world.
Yeah.
Because the person that invited me to the workshop was somebody that I knew from high school. So there has to be some kind of, I don't know, we call it a warm market,
Yeah.
right? Because
Yeah.
the walls are down, you kind of know the person. And so there has to be some kind of trust, especially when it comes to money.
Of course. Yeah.
I didn't talk to him in high school, but I know of him. I knew of him. And I'm like, okay, he's inviting me to this workshop. Let me go. And it took a while, though. I didn't go right away. Because at first he was like, it's Tuesday after work or Saturday morning. I'm like, I don't want to go anywhere after work.
Yeah.
I just want to
Yeah.
go home
I'm trying to go to
and
sleep.
relax.
Right?
Yeah. So I was an employee mindset, right? But there was some reorganization happening at my job. And at that time, it was like 17 years, I saw more and more people getting their job eliminated.
Yeah.
And
It's scary.
so I saw that I was given more work and I wasn't given more raises,
Yeah. And they're like,
And so one day he called me and said, "Hey, we're having a bigger one this time because it's in a hotel in Oakbrook. You want to go?" And at that moment, I was going through that struggle at my job. And he's like, "We have a special speaker coming in from out of town, and he's very inspirational." That's what got me. I'm
there
like,
you
I need
go.
some inspiration right now,
Yeah.
right about now in my life. So I went, I was open, and that's what it was. It was a financial workshop. And I'm like, oh my goodness,
There's so much
this
stuff.
is doable. I could save like that, I can do that. And it just opened up a new world. And that's when I started surrounding myself more, learning more. And again, environment. All of them were entrepreneurs, own their own businesses. I'm like, can I do something like that? And they made me feel like I could. And if you surround yourself with people that believe in you and pour into you, You start believing it yourself. And so that's when I said, okay, this is my exit plan, my exit strategy. And then one girl, they were talking about layoffs in my department.
Oh wow.
And I'm like, lay me off, lay me off. Like, I have a
Yeah.
backup plan. Like, like I have, something that I like and enjoy, but I didn't want to quit. I wanted to get fired. Like,
Oh, so you're
I'm
like,
not ready yet, but if
yeah,
you push me,
then I'll
that's a different
take the
story.
jump.
Well, they laid someone else off. It wasn't me.
Oh,
She was there 5 years longer than me. She was devastated. She didn't have a plan B, and she was struggling. And I'm like, why couldn't it have been me? And they said I was the lucky one because I still had a job, but I was taking on her responsibilities. I had to do her
dang.
job and my job with no extra money. I had to wait a year to prove myself, which I already knew
Right,
the job. I just double the work. So I was
right.
like, this is not fair. This is
Yeah.
horrible, but I'm lucky because I still got the job.
Hmm.
So that's when I took the leap of faith. I did it for 2 months. I was like, because I was surrounding myself with other people that had a vision,
Hmm.
my vision started stretching. And I said, I can do this full time. I could help families full time. I was seeing the demand. I was seeing the people, like their eyes light up when I'm showing them how they can have a financial independent future, how the kids could be good in the future, how
Yeah.
they could retire early, how they could pay less in taxes. All of these things, I could see them, so grateful and referring people. I'm like, okay, what am I doing behind a cubicle? Like,
Yeah,
I,
yeah.
I didn't want to be there no more. So I did. I took a leap of faith. I'm like, okay, my son already was a little older. I'm like, you're working now, you're saving, you pay for your own haircuts. Like,
Yeah,
I'm done. Like,
yeah.
it's my time now.
Now's my time to shine. And what I love about it is I preach this all the time. When you surround yourself with eagles, you fly like an eagle. You know, all
That's so
your
true.
goals that you see that might be too large almost doesn't seem like it is. This was my personal experience from me when I took the jump. I had a couple people that were in my life where it didn't make my goals feel crazy. Did you have a
Mhm.
certain experience with the people that you surround yourself with where you're like, okay, the goals I feel like aren't really that crazy?
Yeah, well, there's some people that will be happy for you and say, "Yeah, you can do anything,
Yeah.
good for you." And other people are like, "Are you crazy?
Yeah.
What about the benefits?
Yeah.
The Federal Reserve Bank." So I'm like, "I don't want to hear it. I don't want to
Yeah.
hear it.
You're
I don't
like,
want to talk to you." And so you have to surround yourself with people that are going to say, "You can do it. You can do anything. Just set your mind, and if
yeah.
this is what is in your heart, you're going to do great."
Did you have a mentor though when you were going into the?
Yes.
Okay, okay. How
Yes.
did the mentor affect your ability to be where you're at today?
I think it's important because you need that person that is in your ear all the time, that
Hmm.
is always going to say, you can do it, you can do anything, don't look back. And also, not everything is always rosy, right? There's going to
Yeah,
be ups and downs, but you have to prepare. And, hence an emergency fund, having, something set aside. A lot of people go into business on their own and they struggle unnecessarily when if you have a mentor who's already doing what you want, then you're going to avoid a lot of mistakes. And my mentor said, make sure you have at least a year worth of your salary set aside. I didn't have all of it. I just knew that I was
you're
going to
like I'm
be
taking a
okay.
jump.
I'm like, yeah, yeah, I have it.
Yeah,
And I didn't burn my bridges at the bank. So when they did an exit interview, they're like shocked. Like, is
yeah,
everything okay? Did somebody do something in
yeah,
management? I'm like, no, everybody's fine. I just want to start my own business. And I started telling them what it was. And the HR is like, oh, yeah, that's important.
yeah.
I mean, like just intrigued everybody with this information. And so they said, if there was ever an opportunity for you to come back, would you come back? And I said, yeah, of course. But I'm like, I am not coming
I'm never
back.
coming back.
And so just surrounding yourself with somebody that's going to be there encouraging you is huge because you can't always do it alone. It's scary out there.
For sure, and it's never gonna be something that you could just do by yourself. And you can. I want to make it clear to everybody,
Yes,
you
you
can, but
can.
it's just the path of getting there is gonna take that much longer in order to hit the goals that you actually want to hit. But let me ask you, and this kind of a little bit personal, but did you make more money in the next job? A lot more money? Was it
Good question.
ballpark range of what you were making before?
Yes.
Or?
So I put my all into it.
Yeah.
I was doing, Monday through Friday in the evening and weekends. So
Hmm.
I was putting my all. And by the way, I had a part time job already. I was waitressing for extra money.
That's
I
hustle.
was
I love it.
bartending for
I love
extra
it.
money. And so this is my third thing. And so
Oh,
right
so you had
away,
3 jobs at
yeah,
that
this
point?
was the third thing I was
How was
putting
your
in.
experience working 3 jobs all while trying to run a business? You know, that's already hard enough. Yeah, I
Yeah.
can't imagine running. Nah, dude, that's crazy.
Yeah, I think when you love something, it doesn't feel like work.
Yeah,
It gives you extra energy.
yeah.
And because I was not getting any younger, I was getting older. And I'm like, I can't waitress forever. I can't bartend. Like, I'm getting older. My son's getting older. Like, I can't be doing this. This is for young people.
Yeah,
So this was perfect. I thank God every day for bringing, this to my life and for me to open my eyes to see it.
yeah.
So but yeah, I
That's
did it,
awesome.
and it was only temporarily because as I started making money, again, it's about helping people.
Yeah,
If you do the right thing and you help people, money will come automatically.
I
So I
agree.
was able to quit my second job, and then just learning more, helping more, I started making more money part-time than I was making full-time at the bank. So
Oh,
that helped with my decision.
there you go.
Absolutely.
There you go. And it all starts from taking a risk, you know. And I tell a lot of people when I first got into this industry, right? Ours is similar to you, where you don't get a check, you don't close a deal, you don't get a check, right?
Yep.
At the end of the day, whatever happens, happens. And I honestly love that about sales, though. I love that. I love not having a ceiling. I love not knowing what my next
Yes.
check is, because that makes me hungrier. You know, and there's some people that feel very secure about having a check every single day, and there's nothing wrong with that at all, right? My dad's one of those people. He's with his company. He's been with his company for many years, and he's just same check every single day,
Mhm.
right? I don't like that. I
Yep.
want to be able to one year, blow everybody out the waters, and this is my year to be great. And then the next year, still continue to have that drive and motivation, because there's no ceiling for me,
No.
you know. So when you first took the risk, though, I want you to shed light on and dive deeper into the things that you had to do prior to prepare yourself to get to that, because you being a mother, I don't know your situation, if you're a single mother or
Yeah,
not, but
single mom.
a single mom, even more
Yep.
risk, you know. I want you to shed light to all the single mothers out there who, because I feel like a lot of single mothers have a strong desire to accomplish a goal, but they don't take the risk because obviously they don't have as much help as what someone who has a partner to hold down a portion of it. Hey, I need you to hold this down financially while I take my risk. You did it
Mhm.
regardless, and you figured it out. So if you had a piece of advice for the single mothers out there who actually want to take a risk and have that desire, that strong desire to actually do it, but they're not doing it, what piece of advice would you give that to them?
Okay. And you just reminded me of something. When I was working at the bank, right before I left to go to the Federal Reserve, they did offer me a position in mortgages. And I was like, no, I
No.
don't want commission. I want that secure paycheck.
Yeah.
But no one encouraged me. No one talked more about it. They
Yeah.
just took no, and that's it.
Yeah.
So fast forward, when this opportunity came on, I'm like, if I could do it part time, I will start part time. That's the only reason I did it, because I
Yeah.
wasn't about to leave my job. So my advice would be to talk to somebody that's already doing what you want to do. Pick their brain, ask them questions, whatever field it is, whatever it is that you want to do, whatever business you want, or anything that you want to do. Even, if it's something that requires you to go to school, whatever it is, find someone that's doing it, because people are, you be surprised. People are open to sharing, and, invite them for coffee,
Yeah.
and that goes a long way.
Mm-hmm.
Having somebody you can call, because there's going to be downs, there's ups and downs. And one way that I prepared, my mentor did say a year's worth of salary, but I'm that type of person that just jumps.
You gotta do it. You gotta
I
do
don't
it.
ask if the water's hot or cold. I just
Yeah, it's
jump.
just whatever
That's
happens,
my
happens.
personality. He's
Yeah.
more like, structured, and I could see his point.
Yeah.
But I knew that I can do it. I knew I was going to be okay. I knew that there's millions of people out there, and I was going to talk to as many people as possible. I'm not shy
Yeah. Yeah.
about it, but there's still a lot to learn. So I'm never going to stop learning, or, getting help, because once you start, inspiring others that want to do the business, then you become a mentor
Mm-hmm.
and a leader. And I still want to learn and grow as a person. So I'm always going to be seeking and looking, and it doesn't have to be one person. It's going to be a lot of different people that you're meeting. So
Yeah.
you can do it. You can do anything. And guess what? Your children are watching you.
I love that.
They're watching
I
you.
absolutely love that. I think I love that because I resonated really well. I have the same exact story in a sense, right? For me, and exactly what you said, mortgages, like, oh, straight commission. I don't even know, like, can you even make money in mortgages? Like, I don't even know what. And that was, and your family, friends, you got people like, bro, with the real estate market crash 2008, are you really gonna make money? This, you never know what happens if there's not a lot of houses. And all these things are coming at you. And I'm sure the same thing happened
Yes.
to you, financial advisor, you don't know when your next check is. You have a son, how are you gonna do it? You don't know when that. So the same things that were happening to you happened to me. And I had so many different emotions that are coming around me. And again, I had my mentor, I had my uncle, and I knew my uncle's in the business. He's the area manager of a company. And so he was like, I went through 2008, I did everything and I figured it out. You're always going to figure it out if you want to learn how to figure it out. Even though life is scary, even though there's things going to come up that you can't even imagine were going to come up, you'll figure it out. And for me, I heard it and I was like, all right, I think I need to take the risk. I love the job. I love everything about it. I think I could do it. I know I could do it. So let me take the jump and take the risk. And now you look back at it and you're like, I don't know if this happened to you, but it feels easy.
Yeah.
Like the job that I'm doing doesn't feel hard. It doesn't feel like I'm working. It's just I'm doing my calling. I'm doing everything that I need to do in order to be successful because it doesn't feel like I'm working.
No.
I can meet as many people as I can. I could do this all day. This is easy to me, And the hard part, honestly, is the aftermath. Is like, so there's some point you do get cut off with a social media. Like sometimes you talk to too many people and you're like, all right, bro, like today I just want to go to my couch. I don't want to talk to nobody. I want to do. That's the hardest part about the job. But at the end of the day, I firm believer, if you meet as many people as you can and you follow their footsteps and see what landmines they already hit and you just walk around it, it'll just make your path to success that much quicker.
Absolutely.
All right. So I just wanted to touch base on obviously the next part of this podcast, which is obviously financial advice, right? You have done an amazing job in not only helping yourself get to the position where you're at today, but also help guiding your son and others getting to the position where they're at today, where they can actually call themselves financially free at a certain age, right? So if you had to give a certain piece of advice to college students or people who are younger or even older that want to chase their dreams and trying to be that so-called financially free, what piece of advice would you give them?
So first and foremost, get a financial assessment, a review. But first of all, when you're younger, that you really don't have a portfolio yet.
Yeah.
So what I would do which is what my son did, after he saw that he could be a young millionaire, I said, you know what? You're just a busboy. You're not making a lot of money right now. You're just working a few hours. Why don't you just put aside a little bit? So of course I helped, just like my grandma, right? I said, I'll start you a plan. I recommend everybody at least get a Roth IRA. If you have a job, I wish I would have had one when I was 16 years old in my first job. Just think back about your first job. And if you would have started saving then, how much would you have right now? Yeah. And that's like something that is recommended for everybody. Yeah. So I said, just start, saving, whether, we open it up with $50 and I'll help start you off, just like my grandma did for me. But you're going to eventually take over. So he started, at 16. So he's still in high school, right? Yeah. But if you're out of college, you could put $50 away. Come on. Yeah. And we go shopping, we spend money. But that's why I said, if you do a review of your budget, income minus expenses, how much is left over, you could determine maybe 10, 20% to save, to put away. And there's different programs. There's programs outside of Roth IRA as well that are tax-free that you could save. So he started with $10 at 16 years old. Now, the reason I started with $10 is because if we start too high, we will stop doing it. And sure enough, what happened was he was excited. All right, let's do it. And then I opened it with the 50. He would give me the 10. After a certain time, he would be like, the excuses start coming. Oh, I'm not going to be able to save this week. There's there's a dance at school and I'm going to need the money. I said, hold up. You want $1 million? Yes. Okay, then you have to stay committed. You have to stay consistent. You can't stop and go. There's always going to be something that's going to come up. Yeah. And now he's like, fine. And now he's upset. And I'm like, this is for your future. It's not even for me. And then I knew when payday was. I'm like, where's the $10? Where's the $10? And now it went from excitement to a chore or to frustration. But then as long as you're consistent and you keep doing it, and again, you have to have someone there, right, guiding you. After a year and a half of doing that, he started working more hours. He got a different job. And I said, okay, that's it. You're doing the 50 now. You're making more money. So guess what he said when I told him he had to do $50?
And what did you say?
You would think that he would be upset because he was struggling with 10, right? Well, he was like, here you go. He actually gave them to me on the spot.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, wait a minute. He didn't, he was struggling with $10
Now it's gonna be
and
50.
50,
Like,
he's fine. Like, no big deal
yeah.
because a habit was created. The habit
Mm-hmm.
was formed. So that's why I always say start small because you still have to create the habit. It's going to get hard. There's going to be
Yeah.
circumstances that say, oh, I can't save this week because I have to do this, I have to do that. Start small and then the habit will get created. And it takes, I don't know if they say 15 times or something to 21, I don't know what it is,
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
create a habit.
Mm-hmm.
And so then he started doing the 50 and then on his own, he started doing 100. He's like, I'm ready to double it. I was like,
Oh
wow, this
wow.
works. This really
Yeah.
works. And
Yeah.
every year after that, he started adding more and more and more. And again, then he started diversifying because, again, I'm showing him those things that I do,
Mm-hmm.
that I teach. And so now he has different places where, he's diversifying. Don't put all your money in one basket.
Right.
Put it in different areas, but start with one. Start with one. Then once the habit is formed and you want to save more, then go to the next. But that's why it's important to talk to somebody like a financial
Yeah.
coach, somebody like me,
Yeah.
that could guide
She's your
you.
go-to.
Because now it's funny because I always say I created a monster because he wants to save a lot now and he just bought his first property. He wants to buy a property every other year. He's guiding his friends and his girlfriend. And so
Yeah.
it's about paying it forward because you're excited about it and you want to help other. Again, environment,
Yeah.
you know, who
When you
are those
surround
people?
yourself with
Yes.
those people, that's exactly what you're gonna follow. And one thing is beautiful about it is what you're starting is almost like a tree, right? You help one person, and then the tree grows, and then that person's gonna help another person. That person's gonna help two people, and then it's a whole tree of people that you're gonna be helping. That's
And your
what's
future
beautiful.
generations.
Exactly. And you're not only creating, you're the first person in your generation that's creating wealth for your family, right? So your future family's only gonna grow from that, and that's only been my forever goal for me.
Legacy.
For me, it was like, it wasn't for me though. My grandparents were kind of similar to your grandma, where they were like, they were living life, but it was just paycheck to paycheck, paycheck to paycheck. And then my parents came in, and then they started off like that, but they derived and figured it out how to really create wealth for our family. And then they taught me things, and now my job is to not only do it for myself, but teach my kids that.
Yeah.
Right?
Get better and better every
Exactly.
generation.
Like a Roth IRA. People don't know what the difference between a 401k, a Roth IRA. Roth IRAs, you're going to get taxed up front. So imagine, you're 16 years old, you're getting taxed the bare minimum. You're not getting paid anything in taxes. You're not going to have to pay anything in taxes because your tax bracket's so low. So when you put money into it when you're very young, now it's just going to keep growing, keep growing, keep growing. And that's going to, you're 16 years old. Imagine when you're 40, 50, 60 years old, how much of interest that you will gain based off the investment, everything. So it's like, and that's tax-free money. You don't have to pay any taxes because you already paid it up front. Right. So it's crazy to think, if I would have done that when I first,
too.
you know what I'm saying? Like, you're like, oh, damn, now it's a different tax bracket. Now, does it make sense? Does it not?
You phase out, you get phased out as far as your income too. So now is the time to do it because once you start making more money, you may not even qualify for it.
Right. Right. That's the whole point, where it's like, if you had that knowledge up front, I'm 16 years old. I was not doing anything where I taxed pretty much nothing, but that's a whole nother field and sector I want to get into. I know that you're obviously with finance, taxes. So a whole nother sector that we don't get taught anything on it. So do you have a little background on it? Do you have a CPA that you work with, or
it's
what's your knowledge on it?
it's always good to work with a CPA when it comes to taxes and how much you should put into plans, especially as a business owner as well. But I feel like there are ways to save. I mean, you have to diversify. So there's going to be 3 different ways that we get taxed. We get taxed when we put our money in the bank, we get taxed every year. So whatever little amount that we're making, we have to report it on our income tax year after year. Stocks, mutual funds, all those things we have to pay taxes every single year. I mean, it's a way to diversify, but just know that we're going to pay taxes. Then you have tax advantage or tax deferred, like a 401k, like a 403b, a 457, depending. Police officers, teachers, they all have different IRS codes. But basically, you're not paying taxes today. You're going to pay taxes later when you pull the money out at retirement. And so if it makes sense, a traditional IRA, or, if your employer's offering you a match, it's free money.
Yeah.
To go
dive a little
for
deeper
that.
on the match for people that don't know.
Yeah. So a lot of companies, not all, a lot of companies are giving you dollar for dollar. And if you save $1, they give you $1. So that's free money. Nowhere else are you going to be able to get
There's
that.
a certain percentage, right?
So up to a certain percent. So you have to ask your employer. So everybody, including my son, I said, if you ever get offered a 401k, there's two important questions to ask. Number one, is there a match? And number two, up to what percent?
Mm-hmm.
So some companies do 2%, some do 4, others do 6. I know one company that does 8.
That's
I'm like,
awesome.
put that money away
Yeah.
up to the match. Don't put more than that. Just if they do 6, you do 6. They
Yeah.
do 4, you do 4. Sometimes I'll sit down with someone who says I'm getting 4 match, but I put 10, and I ask them, why are you putting 10? Because I want to save more. Oh, diversify, put it over here, and so
Yeah.
there's other places
So what you're saying is invest up to the match and then put the whatever the remaining that you were
somewhere
going to
else,
put it in like an IRA
somewhere
or
else.
Roth or wherever you would.
Yeah, there's other programs, other
Okay.
investments,
Dude, that's really smart. I didn't even think of that. That's another thing I learned today.
and a lot of people. There's like 80% of people dip into their 401k plan for
Mm-hmm.
emergencies, and that's a no-no because then you take the money out, it's not being invested anymore
Mm-hmm.
until you pay it back. So that's why an emergency fund is so important, so you don't dip into your retirement and stop the growth when you are borrowing money from it. So, and then if you don't pay it back, it's a penalty, so you're losing taxes and penalties, using your 401k or your retirement account as an emergency fund. So that's not a good idea.
And is that the same thing applies for an IRA, like a Roth that you get taxed up front, like when you take money
For
out?
a Roth IRA, you get penalized if you take the money before 59 and a half.
Okay.
So you could take your principal out, but you can't take the growth until
Okay.
you're 59 and a half. But there's other programs where they're more flexible.
And we're taking money out.
Yeah.
And what's your perspective on investing in real estate?
I think that's part of a portfolio. That's a really good way to invest. There's different ways to invest. There's, stocks and mutual funds and real estate. There's always going to be risk and everything in those things. But hey, real estate is really good. I think also I always say it's a good debt to have. Real estate,
Right.
because I do debt strategies and I help people to eliminate and reduce debt loans. But at home, I'm like, don't be so quick to pay it off because it's
Yeah.
a good debt to have. You get write-offs if you're if you qualify. But yeah, that's something really good to have in your portfolio.
For sure. So for younger individuals, right, that are just first off starting off building a budget, building a plan, if you had to give like a step-by-step 5-stepper, what would you give them? Be like, hey, I know you don't know anything about finance, but these 5 steps right here are a must go get, and this is what's gonna start your path to hopefully one day become financially free.
Yeah. So the first thing is to budget. Know where your money's going. A cup of coffee here and there may not seem like a big deal, but it adds up. I'm not saying don't go to don't go
Starbucks,
out
don't go
to
yeah.
coffee. Go with your friends every now and then, but at home or you yourself, make it yourself to save. But again, first we got to look at the budget, look at everything that your money's going. So income minus expenses, where's the money going, and then what's left over, and what are you doing with what's left over?
And
So
you would just take a bank statement and just go line by line, or how would
I
you?
have a budget form and I'll ask all the questions like how much do you spend on this, how much do you spend on that, how much you spend on clothes, on food, and
Yeah.
going out to eat, on apps.
Yeah.
That's a big one right now.
Yeah.
So how much you pay rent, and I break it down to the ridiculous.
People spend a lot of money on apps.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
crazy.
So, and then once it's on paper and the visual is there, I do Zoom too, so it's you could share your screen. But once you see it, then you really understand where the money's going, and then you can make some, adjustments or some. I'm never gonna tell somebody cut your cable. I'm not gonna do anything like that. But there has to be ways where you could pay less. Now, I also go over short-term, midterm, and long-term goals, and so I'll say, an emergency fund is important. 3 to 6 months worth of income is important to have, especially if you're gonna make a purchase. A lot of times they tell me, like when I ask them what are your short-term, midterm, and long-term goals, a lot of them is I want to buy a home. A lot of people I sit down with,
Yeah.
that's a lot of them is their goals, and so I'll help them prep them, but then I'll refer that to somebody. So I like to partner, with others because somebody always needs something. I just met an immigration attorney. I'm like, oh my gosh, perfect,
been waiting
because
for
I
you.
have people that come to me as a resource, and I just
Yeah.
refer it. I just I like connecting people.
Mhm.
But I would say emergency fund budgeting, and then going over other goals, because a home is not your only goal. Like have other goals as well that you could prepare for.
And then what would your advice be more so for the credit side? Because I know a lot of people get into it. They're like, okay, people have no idea what about credit. And honestly, me personally, if I'm being truthful, when I first got into the business, I really didn't know anything about credit neither.
Mm-hmm.
I got into the business, and my job is obviously I got to look at your credit, income, assets every day.
Mm-hmm.
Credit, income, assets,
Yes.
credit, income, assets, and I see credit reports every day. I see people's debts. I see what people have every single day. And prior to this, I had no idea about credit.
Yeah, that's
Right?
one of the top 5 is
Yeah.
to establish credit. I love rewards. I say money is a game. You're either winning the game or you're losing the game.
Yeah.
If you have debt, you're losing the game because you're paying interest and you're rolling it over every month.
Mhm.
If you want to win the game, use credit cards, pay the gas, pay your food, pay your bills. But as soon as the bill comes, you're going to pay the whole thing off.
Paying full, yeah.
You're still building your credit. And a lot of people think they need to have a balance
Mm-mm.
to build their credit. And if you decide, like, let's say that you do have like the top, don't get any department. I don't recommend department store credit cards. Those have the highest interest,
Yeah.
and one little mistake, you will be dinged a lot of money if you forget to make a payment. A
Yeah.
lot of money. And it's high interest, over like almost 30% interest. So
Yeah.
get a bank card and
Mhm.
get one with rewards. I love traveling.
Me too.
I love
Me
traveling. So
too.
I get travel. So I charge everything on one card. I have two, one for business, one for personal.
Mhm.
And I charge everything and then pay it off at the end of the month, and I'm getting points. That's winning the game because now
Right.
you're getting free, trips.
Yeah. Yeah.
So be smart about the credit, use it, but pay it off at the end of the month.
Yeah. What's important though is discipline.
Yes.
Because I think the biggest trap when it comes to those things is people don't have the discipline. They're like, oh, I'm gonna pay it off at the end of the month, and then they say swipe, 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 and then now they can't pay it off. Now
Mhm.
the company's charging them interest. Now that those rewards aren't even coming up to the amount that they're paying in interest, so the bank's winning, right?
Oh,
And it's a
yeah.
game.
Absolutely.
Exactly like you're saying, it's
Yeah.
a game, and you have to be disciplined enough to do that. And I think that's where budgeting truly does come in. Because I'm the same way. I love traveling. The last 3 trips I haven't paid for it. It's all been through the points and
Nice.
all that stuff. And it's right. It really is a game. If you structure it right, you do the right things, you should theoretically be able to have these cards pay off your trips
Yeah.
and pay the flights, pay all these things.
Or get
But
statement credits, whatever the rewards you
yeah,
like.
but I mean, it's a risk. The risk is that you don't have the self-discipline. You start charging too much, and now guess what? Now you're late on payments. Now there's things that you can't really afford because you're trying to live a lifestyle that you can't afford.
Right, which goes to the next one,
Mm-hmm.
instant gratification. So if
Mhm.
you have a goal, a big goal, then you have to sacrifice right now. Don't get anything expensive or luxury or new sometimes. You get something used because you want to be very frugal to be able to afford it later. So I'm a big proponent in, buying something used, even a car. It doesn't
Yeah.
have to be brand new.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's actually really smart. I think that a lot of people, obviously, like we said, you may look like you got money, but that doesn't necessarily mean you actually have money.
Car rich or
Yeah.
cash poor.
Right. Right. And it's all about, honestly, it's not even about like not enjoying the fruits of your labor. No one says that. Like, you have to enjoy the fruits of your labor, but you also have to be smart with it. You
Yes.
have to understand that, at the end of the day, again, when you surround yourself with these people where, they're egos, right? You see them with the nice cars, you see them with the watches, you see them with the way they dress, and you're like, damn, I want that right now. I gotta go get it. Now how do I get it? Right? And you gotta take a step back, slow yourself down, and realize that first off, a lot of times these people have 10, 15, 20 years in a business and industry that they're in. So they have the experience and they've already put in the time to earn those things, right? Not to say that you can never have those things, but it's just everything has to come in moderation, right? You have to figure out how to budget, save, and then you're going to come to reap the benefits at one point in time. But you just can't, splurge all at once, put yourself in a setback. A lot of people have negative equity in cars and they roll it over into the next car because they want a new car because everyone says, oh, that new BMW comes out. It's just, and I never have realized how bad it is until I start seeing, again, I see people's, credit reports every day. So you start seeing people with $1,000, $1,500 car payments. And I'm like, bro, like, and then the worst part is sometimes they all these warranties and now the car is not even worth half of what they're actually paying for it. So it's like, it's about being smart. And you have to kind of have that meeting with people and mentorship. And I think it's what's truly important with people. And I want people to completely understand this. Mentorship is the best thing you could do for yourself. It doesn't even matter if you don't want to get into a financial advisor, you don't want to be a mortgage loan officer, but just meeting people and individuals who are in the field could see and have seen the landmines just so you can learn. You don't have to want to get into the field. You could be continuing your career, but you just want to learn how to get it. It doesn't hurt to reach out to people. And I've preach that all the time. I meet people just to meet people. Even if you don't want to do business with me, it's cool
Yeah,
because I just want to learn on what you did, what mistakes you made, so that I know how to go left or right.
exactly.
What road I could take. You
Yes,
know.
I agree.
Yeah. So I mean, I know that that was step number 3. Is there any other steps that you would?
Yes. So when you're talking, don't do things by yourself. Like I know a lot of people are private. I was very private before, be a little bit open yourself up to ask for help.
Mm-hmm.
Ask for help because we could avoid a lot of problems like we've talked about. You could avoid mistakes, save yourself some money. And so anytime that you have to make a decision about money, I still go to my mentor. So he does my finances, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I don't, and I end up spending more money than I should.
Yeah.
So always talk to somebody and review what your goals are. What would you like to do? Get second opinions.
Mm-hmm.
No, don't feel like you need to figure this out on your own.
Mm-hmm.
So having talk to somebody that will guide you. Like
Mm-hmm.
you always need like a second set of eyes.
Yeah, yeah, because your mind is deceiving you. You may think you're like, I think I can afford this, and then come
I'll
to
be
realize, yep,
fine. Yeah.
I'll
And
figure
then
it out.
also have a plan for everything else in your life,
Mm-hmm.
when it comes to life insurance. I do insurance 101, understanding. It could be
Mm-hmm.
very, overwhelming, so many different types of life insurance, but you're not only protecting your life, you're protecting your assets as well.
Mm-hmm.
Living benefits, long term care. What if you can't work? What I always say is real estate agents are there for the best time of the life of the person. They're excited, they're buying a home, it's the best time. But I'm there when something bad, a tragedy happens, where something happens to, let's say one of the spouses or the breadwinner. I'm there so now they don't have to lose their home because they have
Mm-hmm.
life insurance, or there's living benefits or long term care in case of an accident or a critical or chronic illness. So you're protecting your assets, by having insurance. So that's, something I call that the foundation of every
Oh, so you
financial
feel like
house.
that's a necessity? Like you should
Yes.
really start there.
Yeah.
And is there a specific age that you think that individuals should start actually investing in life insurance
Somebody who, well, it's not an investment, it's more like protection.
protection? Okay.
But everybody should have life insurance. Even, you can get a life insurance policy as little as 15 days old,
Mm-hmm.
all the way to 80, 85. Some companies go up to 85, but everyone should have life insurance.
Well, what's your perspective on life insurance? Because I hear a lot of people saying it's an investment. It's not. Is it? What
There's
would you?
different types of life insurance. There's term insurance where it's just clear, 10-year, 20 or 30-year terms where you're protected during that time. And then there's permanent life insurance where it never ends. Now the permanent is the one that needs a lot of understanding because there's 3 different types. There's whole life, universal life, and index universal life. So you could structure a plan where you could accumulate cash depending on your goals. So like let's say it's somebody who's 60 or 70. They don't have enough, like let's say 70. They don't have enough time to accumulate cash. So they only want permanent life insurance. So a whole life would be adequate for somebody like that. Somebody who's older, who's like, no, I don't have, like, I don't want to build cash right now. I'm already old. I just want permanent life insurance so my family could bury me. They don't want to leave a burden, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there's certain times that, certain life insurance policies for certain situations. Now, when you're younger, I would, highly recommend the other ones because there you could accumulate cash based on, like one of them has, depending on the performance of the stock market. It's not in the stock market. That's why it's not an investment. It's not in the stock market, but it's based upon the performance of the stock market.
Okay.
How is it doing? And you can get a percentage of that. So those are, I highly recommend, and it's part of the education that I provide. You also have to talk to someone who could properly design it. Not everyone can design, a life insurance product
Mm-hmm.
properly. So you got to work with someone who knows how to structure it. They ask you what your goals are, what are your intentions and objectives for it, and design it properly.
So before any of all this, right? As an individual first, let's say they're starting their career job. They're like, okay, they're fresh out of college, starting a career job. First things first, start a budget. Okay.
Yes.
Second thing, if you don't have credit already, start beginning to obviously develop a credit score. And if you don't have a high credit score, talk to obviously a financial advisor or credit repair person just to get their credit score adequately to wherever so that they can walk in a dealership or whenever they buy a house, they have a proper credit score.
Yeah. Emergency fund.
Emergency fund, number 3. That's the third thing that's super important. Number 4, talk to individuals. Make sure that you have the right individuals. And honestly, find someone that you trust. Okay, I think it is really important to talk to a bunch of different people so you can actually find out who you trust, because just because you see a video doesn't necessarily mean that you trust somebody. So I do think connecting with as many people as you can and finding that guidance is super important. And then the last thing is life insurance. Okay, so if you in those 5 steps, do you think retirement would be a part of your budgeting portion?
Yeah. So usually, I mean, I do 6 steps.
Okay.
Um, so it would be retirement planning, because time flies.
Yeah.
You start now. Even a 25-year-old could start saving for retirement. My son started at 16. So as soon as you get a job, you could start saving for retirement. So that's part of it as well.
Mhm.
So it would be, budgeting, emergency fund, debt management, getting the proper mentorship, life insurance, retirement planning, as well as, estate planning as well. I know you're young.
Yeah.
My son just started his will. I'm like, hey, you have assets,
Yeah, you got to. You got
and
to.
he started, and I provide those for free through my providers, because I'm independent and work with a lot of providers, like hundreds of providers. So I get them for free. But a trust is the next level. Once you have a family, once you're, more, your portfolio is bigger, I highly recommend the trust. And I also refer that out. I'm not an attorney, but I
Yeah.
work with people I trust that are affordable, because I'm about money and saving
Yeah.
people. And so,
Well, quick touch base on a will. Just
Okay.
break down how that works.
So
real
the
quick.
difference between a will and a trust. A will is a recommendation to the judge.
Okay.
It's not the final say. Anything could happen, but it helps. It helps with the decision making, but it still has to go through probate.
Mm-hmm.
Family members sometimes still have to get an attorney, and it may take some time, for that. But it's good. It's better than not having anything, no guidance or suggestions, and it's good for people to have kids. And now a trust is more of the last say. It's not going to go through probate. That's it.
Oh, so that's the
You don't need
final.
attorneys, nothing. That's it. It is what it is, and that's what they're going to follow.
Mhm.
So that one is more clear, and guaranteed.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's the perfect way to put it. And this is all, guys, I'm telling you, this is all free. So if you didn't have your notepad out, I would highly suggest that you go back, take all these notes, because these are all super important tips when you're starting your financial journey. So Blanca, I want to say thank you so much for coming out. We truly do appreciate you. Have been a pleasure to speak to and have given so many nuggets. So everybody who is watching, stay tuned, keep watching, and make sure you take those notes. I really do appreciate everyone's time. If you haven't already, like, subscribe on this video. We're super excited to continue to have these episodes coming, and I hope everyone has a cafecito. Take care.
Thank you, Justin.
No problem.